Congrats on getting beyond 1 million. What got you here won't always get you there. This is a podcast for entrepreneurs who want to reach beyond their 7-figure business and scale to 8, 9, and even 10 figures. I'm Brad Weimert, and as the founder of EasyPay Direct, I have had the privilege to work with more than 30,000 businesses, allowing me to see the data behind what some of the most successful companies on the planet are doing differently. Join me each week as I dig in with experts in sales, marketing, operations, technology, and wealth building. And you'll learn some of the specific tools, tactics, and strategies that are working today in those multi-million, 8, 9, and 10-figure businesses. Life can get exciting beyond 1 million. Adam Lyons, I appreciate you showing up today, man. It's always good to see you.
Dude, it's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, you are one of these people that is very close in geography, yet we're doing this remote.
Yeah. I was actually just thinking, I was like, man, I didn't even know you did it in person. But I think it's one of the reasons why, I live where I live is I don't really, we were talking about it just a moment ago. I'm a lot more introverted than people think. So
yes, this is a bonding point for us. You labeled yourself the quintessential extroverted introvert, and I can relate to that. I like to hide from people as well.
It's one of the reasons, we live on a 43-acre property. We're about 50 minutes outside of Austin, 30 minutes from the airport. And that was not a coincidence. We know we travel a lot. So we wanted to be nearer to the airport than we did for the civilization. We have 20 cows, 28 chickens. We have zucchini, eggplant, watermelon. We've got carrots. We have a fully functioning farm. In fact, during COVID, we supported 3 different families just from our farm alone.
Wow. I always wonder this. Do you kill the chickens or are they your friends? Or both?
We consume the eggs.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Killing the chickens isn't really economically viable, unless you're doing it en masse. So for example, a brand new baby chicken's $3. And then you grow them and you feed them. And by the time you do all that, you've probably put $30 or $40 into each chicken. Whereas I can go to H-E-B and for $7 get a fully cooked and prepared chicken. It doesn't make financial sense to eat the chicken.
Yes. And then you get eggs, which is fun.
Yeah. But, we receive 12 to 18 eggs every day. That's great.
That is crazy. And I really want farm fresh eggs. I have a few friends that give me eggs periodically, and it's the best thing ever compared to. Now, I will say that there are some, especially locally, actually at some point, I have a friend that owns Vital Farms, which is sort of a free range, organic, get good eggs to people.
Nice.
Yeah, outfit, which has a lot to do with, it's interesting as a business model because it has to be geographically distributed. You have to go local for all of the raising of the chickens because that's the only way you can get the eggs in time for them to qualify for kind of that level. But they're still not the same as getting them from your backyard.
What I love about this talk, right, is because I can just imagine tuning into the podcast and they're like, what the hell has this got to do with Beyond 1 Million? But there's so much here, and it's so funny. You and I, we take it for granted, but we're literally talking about the economic viability of eating your own chickens versus going out and getting them done. And what's funny is, as small as that sounds, that's pretty much everything I do in every single company that I acquire or grow or scale or work with. I look at every single moment exactly like the chickens. If it made more economic sense to eat the chickens, I would eat them, but it doesn't. But free eggs is totally worth it. And when you calculate $30 per chicken over 5 years, and then you work out that each chicken gives you, approximately an egg, or it's 3/4 of an egg a day, give or take. When you calculate that out, that's actually cheaper than eggs. So it's so funny because every single decision that we make in business is pretty much around this exact thing. Hence why we have a farm. We had a farm because we knew that food would be scarce during COVID, and we predicted it and we prepped for it and got to enjoy it.
Well, I love that. And especially when you're involved in acquisitions, you're assessing business models all the time. And you've done quite a bit in acquisitions across a pretty wide range of types of businesses, which forces you into that mode of thinking through it. But I think you're right. One of the common threads with people that are lifelong entrepreneurs is thinking through things from the business model perspective all the time. And it's very common to be in a room with any friend that kind of lives a parallel life, and for them to dive into conversation around, I wonder how this business works, right? I wonder why they're doing that over there. Like that seems like a ridiculous thing for them to do. So let's dive into your background a little bit. Why don't you give me the kind of rundown on how you spend your time right now, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah. So I've been an entrepreneur for most of my life, realistically, on and off. Most of my adult life, anyway. I started life as a janitor, which obviously doesn't necessarily lend itself to entrepreneurship. Yeah. But what happens is you end up with a lot of free time. I spent that free time reading the internet and learning those things, which is really what gave me the bug. And it's such a terrible job that it motivates you to want to make money. And you have time. You're sitting at a desk, unless there's a light bulb that needs changing, there's not much else to do. So rather than just watch sports, I learned things. And then, so for the last 17 years, I've pretty much been an avid entrepreneur. And then probably about 8 years ago, I got into acquisitions in a very small way, mostly using it to acquire assets from a company. So if a company was struggling, I would go in and buy it up at the end in its final days to get assets at a discount. No different than getting a house in foreclosure, just getting a company just before it goes under and taking everything you want out of it. Then about 3 years ago, a man by the name of Roland Frazier, who you know and I know, who I'd been learning acquisitions from, wanted some help with teaching people acquisitions. And he asked me if I would mind coming on board as a on-hand practical consultant, actually guiding people through the acquisitions, scale and growth that they were doing. So since 2020, we're at 2022 now, I've done over 1,900 either acquisitions, sales, or consultations for one of those two things, or developing the systems to grow and scale companies. Over 1,900 different businesses.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot. What's can you give me an idea of the range of the size of those businesses?
Yep. I have so in terms of financial size, everything from, a one person business doing $500,000 a year up to a massive corporation, 200 plus employees doing 70 million a year. So the financial range is very broad. In terms of the kinds of companies, everything from cold storage facilities, a Dungeons and Dragons shop, which is a fun one. Various experts from fitness to, supplements. I helped somebody with a dog poop cleanup device, socks designed for marathon runners, a restaurant in New York City. The variety is insane. A mechanic yard, a tow company, various e-com businesses, influencers, you name it.
Yeah, that's wild. Do you have, does one model excite you more than another? Like that's such a wide range. And as an operator myself, there are some businesses that I know for damn sure I have zero interest in running or participating in.
I don't like e-com personally.
Oh, really?
I'm happy to help somebody who's doing e-com. I don't like it. It's not my favorite. It's a lot of effort for volume that makes sales through volume. And I prefer making sales through a really good customer journey that has high profit, amazing customer experience. That's more my kind of thing.
Can you give me can you give me two parallel customer journeys?
Yeah. So
one that you don't like with e-com versus one that you do like somewhere else?
So I've got a transportation company that I consulted for, and they're acquiring various truck yards where they can store their trucks, I suppose. And a single contract there is a minimum of $750,000 a year, renewable. So that's fun. I like negotiating those. It means I know that I've made a massive dent in the finances of the company. You add 4 of those a year, and it's like an extra $3 million guaranteed revenue every year on year on a 10-year contract. I mean, it's big numbers. It's beautiful. The margins are great. You always need people to deliver your food. So that's not really going away anytime soon. Gas prices were a pain. I've got stories there, but that's a separate thing. So I like those kind of businesses. I like expert-led businesses where you have somebody who is really good at what they do, and there is somebody else in the industry who is not good at that, but they're very good at marketing. And I love those ones because the marketer kind of can't outdo the expert once the expert learns business strategy and marketing. So it's kind of an easy win because I'm like, hey, first of all, there's a marketer who's already showing you how to do it. Second of all, they don't know as much as you. Third of all, not only can we analyze what they're doing, we can probably improve on it and beat it. And then when they try to show that they've got credibility, they won't be able to because you're actually an expert.
I love that. I think routinely I see, so we have a huge chunk of our client base. It's probably, 15% or something, like a big chunk of our client base that sells information, and they are quote unquote experts. And we routinely see the barrier being somebody that really is an expert that knows their space, but it not jumping from, call it $1 million or 2 million or something to 20 or 50 because of the marketing. And often it's ego, right? Often it's the situation where they're wrapped up and I'm the expert and fuck that person over there. But the person over there is doing better with their marketing model.
It's so true. And I think there's even more so at less than $1 million who are trapped and don't want to use marketing because they want their natural talent to speak for them or what have you. It's interesting. Like, whenever I work with companies, I'm always talking about like the different financial thresholds because, I've got to a point where the amount of money I make, I really like. And, it's really unique to be in this position because I work with companies, like I said, 30 million, 50 million, 60 million, 70 million. But I myself really like to keep myself quite lean. And so, we do a few million a year, nothing more than that. And I always have people come to me and say, you could be making so much more if you, and then they list all the things. And I've realized that there is a psychological barrier around each financial, marker. And the one I'm at, which is like the sub 3 million level, is really nice. And as long as you are there because you want to be, I think it's one of the best places to be because 3 to 5 is quite a painful journey. And as somebody who's worked with, I've seen hundreds of companies do this. 3 to 5 is not very pleasant. 5 to 10 is also a different kind of not very pleasant. And then you'll see that most companies between 10 and 20 sell. And if you've ever heard of a buddy of yours exiting, they almost always exit at like 12, 11, 14, 15. That's kind of like where they exit. And I believe the reason for that, just with the companies I work with, is they get bored because they no longer need to do anything. And what's scary is, I don't know if you know many people that have exited at that level.
Sure.
They end up getting very depressed. And yeah, it takes a few years. But after a few years, they end up being like, I don't know what I'm doing. And it's actually something that Roland talks to me about a lot, that he believes it's the lack of momentum, where you're like, go, 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 go. And then when you sell, you kind of take a break, but then you have to kickstart it all again. And your contacts have moved on, your staff members have leveled up, and you kind of are back at zero. And it can be really disheartening. Whereas, Roland's got a lot of experience in this. This is kind of like, obviously who I model and mentor. And he talks about make sure you always start the next thing before you exit. So you can transition a lot of that momentum. And he's like, by all means, take a little break, but you should have the other thing going. And I've been thinking this through a lot. And, he agrees with me. This like 2 to 3 million space is really pleasant. You can just, you can get by with a handful of staff. The profit margins are ridiculously high, and you have a lot of flexibility. You can go on vacation, you can take breaks. I've definitely got into like a really lazy rhythm that I really enjoy. And I remember somebody saying, like, "What's next for you?" And I was like, "I think next for me is just continue to help more companies." And because I'm focused on other people's growth and not my own, it's actually better. Like, I like doing the big deal, knowing that, they're like, oh, we're going to put $30 million into this. And I'm like, God, that's not me. Like, that's not my money. And so happy about this. And I will help you make so much more money with that 30 million and I'll take a chunk of it and that'll be great. But yeah, it's really fascinating just thinking about the psychology of the different financial levels of these companies.
Yeah, well, I think that one of the things that you said that is really, really important is being at that level is great as long as that is the choice that you're making and you're making it deliberately, right? That you want to be at this level. And I think that that's true of no matter what level you're at, right? If you're consciously there, fantastic. And I'll add, my perspective on sort of the journey of, sub 5 million, 5 to 10, 10 to 20.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, is what I see from people. And doing this podcast is super fun because I get to talk to people at different phases. Mm-hmm. Like I had a conversation with a founder last week that is pretty heavily funded. And he brought on 92 million in venture capital to grow. And the journey at these different phases requires that your role as a founder changes and evolves. And so frequently when you say, hey, when our buddies sell at 10, 12, 14 million, a big part of that is that, and of course this is predicated on the business model, right? If you have a grocery store versus an e-commerce store versus a logistics company or a transportation company, those are all very different, right? Your hat has to change. And maybe you want to do that. Maybe you have the skill set and capacity and character to do that. Maybe it aligns with your values to do that, and maybe not. For me personally, I've been conditioned because I grew up in sales to get gratification from short cycle and the payoff, right? Like I've been used to the commission, like give it to me. And so transitioning into Easy Pay Direct for the last decade plus, it's a longer cycle to enjoy the benefit of that growth. And so the emotional triggers tied to success are now different. And to take it to the next level, if you look at that scale from 10 to 50 or to 100 or to $1 billion company, you're stretching out that pattern longer. And instead of executing to get a reward, it's this developing people, leadership, new role, new hat for the CEO. And so it's fascinating to me to look at those things and hear different perspectives, especially when you're talking to people about acquisition, which functionally is this transitional moment of I want to get out of the company.
Yeah, well, and this is kind of like the thing of and I've thought a lot about this, and it's good to talk to you about it as well, obviously, because you deal with money. There's a difference between how big your business is and how much money you have. So
Huge.
We regularly use our business and put money into properties. I mean, like we've collected 2 million in equity alone this year, beyond the business, and that's our strategy. And it's always funny because I always tell people, like, why don't you focus on growing the business? It's like, because I'm growing my properties and generating mass wealth with equity. I don't have to do anything. It just builds and collects in the background. It's great. We just closed on one property. We've got 4 more offers out to close on 4 more properties by the end of the year. We bought a commercial property about 2 years ago. And that's our strategy, is from a wealth standpoint. And, and I think a lot of business owners confuse the fact that they're going to get wealthy from their business. You can, but you can also use that business as a wealth generating asset that enables you to just do smarter things with money and make money that way. And this way, I've got 5 kids. And I actually have time to sit and hang out with my kids. Like before the podcast, obviously we had a plumbing issue today, but while the plumbers were doing the plumbing and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get any work done, I was sitting playing Switch with my 7-year-old. We sat down and he's showing me this world he's designed in. There's a 2D version of Minecraft that he plays. And so we've been playing that together, and we sat for like an hour this morning doing that. And I would rather do that than really push my company. At the same time, I'm blessed that my clients come to find me. Like they're like, you know what? I like the idea of working with a guy that cares more about helping his clients than he does about making his own company bigger. And who's smart enough to have his systems organized and kind of doing their thing. So, he doesn't have that much to do. Not that I have anything to do, but.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. And I think that, again, that goes back to being deliberate about how you want to spend your time, right? Very often I see people in, it's sort of like assessing the bullshit radar, but I see people that are living in a certain space and they rationalize through, oh, well, this is, I'd have to make these compromises and do this and do that. And like, it's just really, and that whole thing is this rationalization for their lack of capacity to grow. And that's a lot of the time when I hear that, that's what I feel like it's a veil for a lack of capacity or a lack of understanding or intellect. And so one of the things that I really appreciate about you is that that's clearly not the case.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Yeah, I just I'm a nerd at heart, and I like learning about stuff.
You have a Dungeons and Dragons shirt on right now, I think.
Actually, this is Master of the Universe, just to be
really
fair. Nerdy. He-Man, yeah. But
Obviously.
we totally have a Dungeons and Dragons shop, that's for sure. Yeah, but it's just like kind of like we're talking about being deliberate. Like a lot of people, so if you remove the business to make money to get rich, so I'm like, okay, I am definitely rich, and I'm getting richer and richer from my properties. My properties, all leverage against each other and make more money. And anyone who isn't experienced with this and is concerned that because they're leveraged against each other, that the whole thing could come tumbling down. I should also mention that they cash flow themselves, and each one is their own business in its own right and separated out from all the others. So it's really far more durable than it would look if you didn't understand it. But the only other reason to have money is to buy the things that you want, or go to the trips that you want, or go on vacations that you want. And otherwise, there's not really much money. And then there's like a legacy for your children. So in terms of a legacy for my children, that's going to be property. And obviously we have, retirements, investments, all that. My kids have got a good head start on life, far more than I had as a janitor. And then, and then when it comes to buying things you want, I've learned that if there's something I want, I would rather just acquire a business that has it. So when I wanted to get more Dungeons and Dragons things, I just acquired a Dungeons and Dragons shop, because that was a lot easier than buying some Dungeons and Dragons things. And obviously there's a deeper story there, but that's kind of where I'm at nowadays. So I wanted somebody to come on board and help me with my social media. I didn't want to do it anymore. And rather than think, okay, how much is it going to cost me for a staff member, I acquired a social media agency. And that's how I do things.
Yeah, I love that. And I want to talk about the steps of acquisition for you as you see it, because that that path for a lot of people becomes a daunting proposition. I know for me, it's not my core competency. And so, and it kind of plays into the whole narrative also of use the business to leverage and to build wealth outside of the business. There are sort of fundamentally two different approaches to business. One is, and I often divide them in bootstrap versus venture capital, but they don't have to be. But one of the things that I like a lot about the VC model is that when people are in, they're fucking all in. And the game is really only exit. The game is not cash flow. It is not about making money right now. It is not about pulling a big salary right now or divesting. It's going all in to build this thing as big as you can for the payoff at the end. And if you do it really well, you get a big payoff at the end. If you don't, you really leave with very little. But the alternative is sort of the approach that you're talking about, which is leverage the business. Don't necessarily go for multiple X growth every year, but take money out of the business to build wealth elsewhere, build your lifestyle, family, keep what you want in your day-to-day life. And I like that in general. With that, you are necessarily splitting your focus to build wealth and learn other vehicles, like real estate investment, right? You can't just jump into a commercial property or multiple and have it work, right? You need to know what you're looking for, you need to know how to handle it, you need to know what the management side of it is, et cetera. Similarly, when you're acquiring a business, you have to have some idea what the fuck you're doing, right?
Yeah, a little bit. You at least read like a leaflet on it, maybe like find some PDF on the internet and you're good. No, it is.
I feel like you could point us to one.
Yeah, I definitely can. But I think the key is acquiring a business, right? You can go to flipper.com and you can buy one. or you can go to a brokerage and get a broker, right? So the buying of it is easy. The problem is making it pay for itself. That's where it gets harder. So
you have to run it afterwards in some capacity. You have to keep the business moving, right?
Maybe. I'll give you an example. I bought a software company earlier on this year, and it cost me no money whatsoever to do this, personally. The way I did it is I really wanted a CRM, and I didn't really want to, again, pay for the software because Salesforce is expensive. And I thought, I wonder if there is a CRM company out there that is for sale. So I go through some brokerages I know, and I find a CRM company. And it's got a price attached to it. And I look at that price and I think, man, I would have to run the company for a couple of years to make money back. Or I would have to sell a lot of people on using this CRM. Now remember, I'm buying it because I want it, not because I want to grow the business. I just want the CRM and I don't want to pay any money. So instead, I contact the owner and I say, does it come with the full rights to the CRM? Or did you just white label this? Like, is this real? And he's like, no, I designed it all myself. I was like, well, why the hell are you selling it? And he's like, well, I built in a bunch of needs that I don't have or that I don't need. And then there was a bunch of things I wanted that I didn't have. So I built another one afterwards that is better. So I was like, oh, great. So this is the bad CRM. And he's like, no, it's good. It's just not what I need. So I was kind of like laughing with the guy. And so I'm like, okay. So then I reach out to a bunch of business owners that I know. And I said to them, would you like to own the rights to your own CRM that you can sell on to other companies? And sure enough, I got one person came back and said, yeah, I would. And so I said to him, I'm in the middle of buying this company and it comes with this CRM. I was like, but I want to modify it. I don't want it exactly as it is. So if you're open to it, I'll be willing to sell you the ownership of the current CRM, providing you're okay with me having a duplicate. And the guy said, sure, that sounds great. So I gave him the price. And if he went and he developed his own CRM and paid for all the software developers and everything, it would have cost about the same as buying the business. So he calculated it and realized he wouldn't have to wait. He could just have it next week. And so he said, yeah, I would love that. I'll buy it. Because it was a time-saving thing, right? Mm-hmm. And he agreed to let me have a version, knowing I was going to change it, so we'd end up with 2 different versions. And then I contacted all my customers that could use the CRM and said, would you be interested in buying, in advance, the rights to use the CRM? And so I got a whole bunch of people pre-signed up to use the CRM. I gave them lifetime membership. It's a digital piece of software. The money I generated was actually almost double what was needed to buy the company. And I didn't need any of my own money. I received the money, handed it to the guy that had the business, bought the software company off of him with all the customers that he had with it, and the CRM became mine. I cloned the code and gave it to my buddy with a contract that says, I'm going to change it significantly enough, and he can change it as well if he wants. And there we go. So it didn't cost me any money. I actually made money on buying it. And that's kind of how I approach things.
So how does it run now? Did it come with a development team, staff? Was there support? What was the makeup of that business like?
So yeah, this was interesting. It came with the customers. It came with the software. It did not come with the team because it was made by the owner. And that's why I got a good deal on it, because it wasn't coming with the person that could make it or fix it. But right. I got to have due diligence. I got to have a team look at it. So the team was like, yeah, we can work with this code. He's done it really well. There's some issues here, but we can fix it. And there were definitely some teething issues when we first got it. And I probably had to spend, I think, $3,000 to get some things fixed up. It wasn't a significant amount. And crazy. I'd made a lot more. Yeah, so it was worth it. And it's so funny, but this is what I'm talking about. When, you said one of the fears of acquiring a business is, what are you going to do? Well, I almost doubled my money. So I got paid to acquire this company. And now this is where I'm going to talk about the lazy part. Well, now I'm sitting on it. I haven't done anything with it because I don't need to. And,
right.
I got what I wanted and I could grow it if I wanted to. But I don't really want to right now. And that doesn't mean I won't. It's funny. The reason this is to mind is I got an email this morning from the development team that gave me a quote on making all the changes and tidying it up. And they were like, hey, we're ready to go if you want to do this. And I still might, but it's just not the high enough priority given everything else going on. Again, given a chance to hang out with my kid, I'm going to pick to hang out with my kid. Where I'm probably going to use this, and I already know where it's likely to happen, is if one of my clients in the future is in need of a CRM. And I'm working with them and I'm helping them grow their company. And that's when I'm most likely to say, hey, I've got this CRM software company. And for the right person, I'd be willing to throw that in on the deal and let's do this. And that's the kind of thing that I do. And I've done that a few times. I have a convention that I own, and I've done stuff like that with the convention where I kind of like didn't run it during COVID or the year after because of COVID. And then after a couple of years, I had some people that wanted to give me a lot of money if I could get them exposure for their businesses. I was like, why on this convention I never do anything with? Give me the money in advance and I'll do the convention. And so I did. I rented out a convention hall and I threw a convention because I had a bunch of vendors that wanted to give me money to be at a convention. And I hired somebody else to run the whole thing.
Well, I think that's it though. I think for me, that's the crux of it. And I think for a lot of people it's that last little sentence that I hired somebody else to run the whole thing. And the same thing was true with the software company, right? Did you, both with the convention and let's just, stay with the software example for a second. Did you already have a development team or did you go find a development team to assess the code when you were looking to buy it?
I had a staff software developer who builds our websites. So I had a guy on staff. And because, we have worked with 1,900 companies and I currently own 16 companies that are active. Not counting the ones that are not doing anything. But I have 16 that are active. And so my core staff work across all the different companies. And there are, other people involved in those companies as well that aren't my direct employees, because some of those companies are in partnerships. So I'll have a partner that pays for a staffing team. So a good example is like the social media agency. There's a whole bunch of staff there that I've never met. I own 40% of it. I don't have much to do in it. I receive a check every single month for being available when needed. But if they need a developer, then from my core company, I'll be like, I've got this developer on staff, you can rent them out for this many hours a month at a discount.
Yeah, that makes sense. So for, for the 1,900 that you've worked with, obviously, ranging from, a little $500,000 company to, tens of millions, with several hundred person staff. What if you don't have the expertise, right? What if you don't have the people on staff? What's the suggestion there? And by the way, that could absolutely apply to, a $10 million company or a $20 million company. They just don't, that it's not their core competency. And software is a really good example because you could be running a whole litany of different businesses and have no software developers on staff or super technical people on staff. What's the approach from there? How do you feel comfortable or good about buying a business like that?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I think a good example of that is the fitness company I bought, where I don't know anything about fitness, and I took ownership in the fitness company, knowing I didn't know anything about it, and all I did was partner with somebody that did, and I said to them, "Hey, I'm going to do this thing. Do you want to go in on it?" And they went, "Yeah, sure, that'd be great." So I went in on with the expert. And I can't tell you how often I'll sit down with one of my business partners who knows a lot more about the industry than me. And I'll say to them, what would you advise somebody in this situation? And I just spell out the situation we're in. And my partner will be like, I always tell people this. I'm like, great, that's what we're going to do then. So it's a pretty simple catch-all. The key is knowing what I bring to the table. And I think that's like the superpower is you got to know what your worth is. And I know that my worth is generating revenue inside the company, a lot of revenue. Often, like I said, enough to pay for the company itself. And that's become like my real superpower, which is, like I said, on one hand made me lazy, but on the other hand, I like to view laziness as extreme efficiency. So, if I really wanted to double my company, like my core company, it really wouldn't be difficult. I could either try and make a whole bunch of sales, or what I would be much more likely to do is find a company very similar to mine that was almost the same size and acquire it in a single sale and double. And that's the reason I haven't doubled, because why would I do it the slow way Because if you think about companies like Facebook or Meta, as they're called now, and all these other companies, that's how they grow up.
Yeah, certainly a big part of it. So tell me about revenue generation. So you said your value prop in acquisitions or in most things is the ability to generate more revenue and growth. Outside of acquisition, what's the approach there?
Yeah, so making money or making revenue, this is like the taboo subject. You make a bunch of emails and you tell people you can help them make money. You instantly sound like a scam artist. What we've had to do is develop systems to generate money because of all the different people we work with. And it's got down to, it has to be a science. And not the science of selling, the science of generating upsells. There's a really cool Forbes article on upselling, and it said, of the companies that implement upsells effectively, 70% of their revenue is from upsells alone. Which means if you don't have an effective upsell strategy, you're operating at a maximum of 30% capacity. So just think about that. There's a lot more money for you. I think one of the best examples is one of my recent clients, which was an apartment complex. And so they had, I think it was like 276 doors in this apartment complex. And he came to me and said, can you actually help me make more revenue? He goes, all my money comes from rent from my apartment people. And he's like, I cannot think of how I can upsell these people. He's like, I like the idea. I want to give you money. He's like, well, what do I do? And so what we do is we analyze the customers to find out what they really want to buy. And it was just a little bit of brainstorming, but it didn't take a lot to work out that they wanted credit repair. They wanted faster internet. They wanted job opportunities. A lot of them wanted to buy their first house and they didn't know how to get a mortgage. So just from one survey alone, we had 3 routes to making more money. And, the credit repair one was massive because a lot of these people were now making money. Like they weren't making money before, but they're now in an apartment complex. They've like got their stuff together, but their credit is still bad. And it's not bad because they're not earning. It's bad because they don't know how to tidy up their credit. And by offering them credit repair, again, a free training, you could just offer everybody in the apartment complex, anyone that wants to take part, anyone who chose to pay to hire somebody to do it or sign up for a service to analyze their credit, they made more money off of it. And so there are so many different ways to make money that people don't think about in a company. I always say to people, let's just say you're a marketing agency and you're like, we're a Google Ads specialist. I'm like, okay, great. You're a specialist. And they're like, yep. I'm like, do you do YouTube ads? They're like, nope, we just do native Google, text ads. That's all we want to do. We don't want to do YouTube. We don't do Facebook. We don't do anything. I'm like, do any of your clients ever ask you for the other ads? And they go, all the time. They're always saying YouTube and Facebook. And we tell them, no, we just do Google. And I was like, what if instead, hear me out, what if you had a partnership with an agency that did Facebook ads and YouTube ads and you set up an affiliate system with them and you referred them? And they go, well, then we might lose them. I was like, well, then you'd be a pretty bad Google ad company if you're genuinely worried. But if your customers are already asking, isn't it better that you're the one that refers them? And even if you did lose them, you'd still be getting the affiliate revenue. I mean, you'd still be gaining money. What we do in all our companies is we're continually analyzing not what we want to sell, but what the buyers want to buy. And it's crazy some of the journeys that you go down, the associations that you would never come to yourself, that the buyers in the company have. And they're like, oh, I trust you with buying my house. I also want to listen to you for acupuncture referral. You're like, what? A realtor referring acupuncture? But that's what they want. And over time and, with proper market research, you can work out that there's a lot of things that people want next, right? So, for example, you do, merchant processing, but often people will go to their merchant processors when they want the money that you hold in reserve. So they'll be like, there's an amount of money that you keep in reserve, and they'll be like, oh, can we release some of that cash? And it's like, well, why do they want that? Most of the time they want that cash because they either want to fix a financial problem in their business or because they're looking to buy something and they want that chunk of cash and they kind of view it as like a secret savings account. Well, that means they're coming to you every time they need a chunk of cash, which means, do you refer people to a CFO service? Do you refer people to loan services? And more importantly, rather than just if someone asks, are you ever proactive with it? Do you ever talk about the various ones that are available? And maybe you do, I don't know. But I'm just showing you this is kind of how we think. And we do this in every company. And in all 16 of our personal companies, every quarter, we have a meeting with every head of every company or every department, if I own it 100%. And we run a survey, we do market research, and we find out, what do our people want to buy? And we make sure we provide it to them.
Yeah, I love that. I want to break that down a little bit further because I think it'll be helpful. So first, ultimately what I'm hearing is increasing LTV through third-party services.
Bingo. Initially, and then you can develop them out yourself and have them in-house afterwards if there's enough interest, which is a great way of testing without spending.
I love that. So that's great. First, you mentioned, and you're approaching this from a consultative perspective, right? So you're talking about, and I guess not entirely, right? You've got all your own businesses that you're doing this with, but you started by talking about the apartment building and coming into it to increase the value of those customers, the renters. And the starting point was a survey. How do you facilitate that? And is it an ongoing survey, or do you think, hey, I'm just going to poll the existing audience? What does that look like?
Yeah, so that's what our company does. So we developed this thing called the S.M.A.R.T Blueprint, and companies will hire us. We charge like 25 grand, and we develop a custom marketing survey that we work with the owner of the company to make sure it's got jargon that is relevant to the people that are there. And we specifically target only buyers, and we will, we've got like 4 or 5 different methods that we'll implement it. So sometimes we'll just send out the survey. Sometimes we'll actually get people on a phone call. We'll do group sessions. It really depends on the market. And that's why we talk to the owner of the company. We're like, okay, what's going to be the least invasive and get us the most accurate results, because we want people to be honest. And it's a very hands-on approach. And honestly, Brad, I love it. I would do this all day, every day. You'd see how excited I get. I like bounce around the room. I'm like, can you believe this? Oh my gosh, this is what these guys want. Like, I love it. Like, and it's fun. Like, my dad said to me, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And at the moment, we don't outsource this. Like, I do it. I'm the owner of the company, and it's like one of the few things I'll actually do. I'm like, no, I want to meet them. I want to talk to I want to talk to the potential buyers. Cause I love the insight. And after doing this for like 1900 companies, I know so much about different industries that you wouldn't even believe. And I've got these weird correlations, that you find out. So for example, we're going to be at TNC this year.
TNC is short for Traffic and Conversion Summit. It's one of the largest digital marketing events and was created by digitalmarketer.com.
Are you going this year? Are you going to go to San Diego?
I feel obligated to go to TNC every year, largely because we've got such a significant client base there. And it's fun.
I love
so
it.
yes, probably.
I love going, but like, I know things about people that attend TNC that you're going to see. We have a booth this year, and you'll see it at the booth, these little insights that we've got because of all the companies that we work with. And so I can't talk about it yet because it's all top secret, but you'll see what I mean when it gets there. But our giveaway that we have at the booth, we have a very cool giveaway. And our research has shown like, this is the thing that's going to crush. This is the one that everybody wants.
All right, let me ask you this. Let's say, for instance, that we just released this podcast after TNC. Can you tell me the details then?
Yeah, for sure, I can.
Okay, perfect. Because I want the details.
All right, I got you.
And maybe we'll do a recap and how it worked also.
Yeah, for sure. So it's blue blockers.
Okay.
You think about it. You've been at TNC, the amount of marketers that are all about blue blockers, and it's because they're at their screen all day and they also are big on health, but they have this grind culture. They know they have to be there. And blue blockers, which are the sunglasses with the orange lenses,
and they make non-ridiculous looking ones these days. They actually make like cool looking blue blockers these days.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And see the fact that I can go to any marketer in the world pretty much, and I can talk about blue blockers, and just like you instantly had an opinion. You're like, oh yeah, like the not ridiculous ones. Whereas you think about the average giveaway, a baseball cap. No one wants to wear a baseball cap inside a house. Key rings. Most of us go for a minimalist lifestyle. A lot of these giveaways are just generic things they're hoping will work. We know for a fact that our clients and that people in marketing actually like wearing blue blockers. So we're putting time and energy into doing it. And we're going to have some very special ones that we're going to be giving away every day, which are the Bose headphones. Have you seen those, the sunglasses with the headphones built in?
Oh yeah. I have some Ray-Bans with the headphones built in and a video recorder. And I think Bose does the same thing.
They do. They don't do the video. I think the audio quality is better. I tested because there's the Amazon ones. So, but you see how we're already having a discussion about this. This is key.
Yeah.
The reason we'll be bringing people to the booth will be to have a discussion about the different types of blue blockers.
Right.
Which will bring into how did we know that blue blockers are the thing that would trigger the best conversations, where we'll show them because we've been doing customer insight reports on the marketing industry and a whole bunch of other industries for the last few years. And we know the behavior of people and what they want to buy.
So, and are those all through survey? And are they through email survey, phone, et cetera? What does that look like?
Combination. So we do Zoom. We'll do like a Zoom focus group. We'll do surveys. One of my favorites is, I love doing this one when I speak on stage, and you'll see this at TNC. I'll be doing a live survey from stage just with people raising their hands. And it's shocking the answers you can get very quickly from people in a room. Like I remember I was speaking in one room, and this was for a mastermind of a guy by the name of Ryan Stuman. And I asked him how much money the average person in the room makes. And he told me it was like around $1 million. And so I said, okay, that's cool. And this was not his main mastermind. He's got like a sub mastermind for youth. And I just looked at the people in the room and I was like, some of these kids have Rolexes. I mean, they're young guys. It's like, but like they're showing off a lot of wealth, a lot more than you'd typically expect for 7 figures. And so I said, do me a favor, raise your hand if you're doing, over 10 million. Of course, no one raised their hand. It was like over 5 million, no one raised their hand. Like, over 4 million. And about 40% of the room raised their hands. So after that talk, I pulled Ryan to one side. I was like, did you know that 40% of your audience in this room doing over 4 million a year? He's like, yo, I didn't know they were doing that good. I was like, bro, they should level up and go in your main program. And he's like, that's a great idea. I was like, listen, I told everyone to come back tomorrow morning for a secret session because I planned this out. Would you mind bringing your sales team into the room for me? I was like, it's at 8 a.m. They'll have to come to work a couple of hours early. He's like, bro, I got you. I'll do it. And so we brought 4 salespeople in the room. So the next morning, it's 8 a.m. I've got all of his clients. 200 people in the room. And I know that 40% of them are in the wrong group. They should pay for the $50K a year mastermind. So I stand up and I'm teaching and I'm talking. And I'm like, sometimes you have to play at the level you're supposed to be at. You ever worry about the fact that, you look around and you realize that you're doing better than everybody else? If that's the situation, you're in the wrong room. You're supposed to be in the room with the people, that are doing better than you, but that's going to hurt more. But Dan, yesterday I asked how many of you do 4 million a year. Raise your hand again. You really can't afford 50 G's? You're doing 4 million. You can't afford 50 grand. Keep your hand up if you can afford 50 grand and you know that you should probably be in the higher level and work closer with Ryan Stillman. 11 people raise their hand. I'm like, hey guys, go to the back of the room. Ryan's sales team's here right now. Just sign up and I'll see you here tomorrow in the executive club with the real people. And they all went, made 550 grand in the morning. Ryan pings me off. He's like, dude, that stuff you do is so good. And I like it because no survey, no focus group. That's just hand raised in a room. But an extra $500,000 for a morning, it's not bad.
No, that's great. So variety of assessments for that stuff. Yeah, I like that a lot. The other, for us, one of the areas that we play with that, and candidly, it's not anywhere near as dialed as it should be. And largely that's because we're focused on the core offering as opposed to LTV and as opposed to maximizing revenue per client. We want to make sure that we continue to dial the offering that we're actually offering. Right?
Yep, makes sense.
But the other area are non-converting leads, right? So people that come into our pipeline that we don't end up working with and continuing dialogue. And one of the reasons that I started Beyond a Million in the first place was to generate content around valuable things for the people that we never convert, right? Because how many fucking emails can I send out that say, hey, do you want to set up a merchant account? But you want to set up a merchant account today? We have to provide other value. And through that exchange around sales, marketing, operations, technology, and taxation are all of these other products that can be offered, right? So it's not just maximizing the existing client base and the LTV there. It's the long tail and the rest of the leads that come in.
Yeah. So, and it's fascinating. I love what you said because it's like, you represent 92% of entrepreneurs who say, I'm focusing on my core offer and growing it as opposed to increasing LTV. I'm in the weird 8% that focus on LTV and not on the core offer because I would rather I'd rather maximize the profit. Here's the fascinating thing, and just like a nugget you may not have tried that could be good for you. You can contact all the people that have never bought from you, and you can say, hey, I'd like to buy you a coffee if you can solve this problem for me. So that's like the email. And someone who's never bought, if somebody goes out to people that have never bought, they kind of like the idea that you're going to pay them because they haven't given you money. So like, that's right, I'm going to get money out of this guy. And so the email itself says, I'm trying to work out why some people choose not to go with our service. If you wouldn't mind taking a minute to just write back one thing that we're doing wrong, that we could be doing better, that would have made you sign up. If we're going to select one person a day for the next 5 days and treat them to a $50 or $20 Starbucks gift card. What I love about this is you're going to get a whole bunch of replies back about like, you're too expensive, but you'll get some really good ones. You'll get some people that are like, well, I've thought about going with you, but I'm scared about leaving my current people, or I don't know. Yeah. And you'll get all these other ones back. They become your marketing campaign for the next month. So now every day you tackle a new objection and you target these people and you pick up so many extra sales. So it's a really good way of just like, because you paid for those leads, it's one way or the other through sweat equity or money. And once you start doing that, these become objection handling techniques you can throw into all your, into like your FAQ. I like objection handling in the FAQ because most people, if they have objections, they go straight to the FAQ. So if you just have like a big FAQ that just handles every one of those objections, like, so if someone's like, you guys are too expensive, just put down there and go, we may be expensive, but we don't take as much of your, your money aside, or, and so you tackle all the reasons about why actually you're affordable. I love the phrase, you pay cheap, you pay twice, and then it's always more expensive, right? So those kind of things. And so you can just tackle all those objections and it just boosts your conversions.
Yeah, I love that. Those are both great. The quote, what is it? Price is only an issue when value is not clear.
Yeah, I love it. So true.
Something to that extent. Yeah.
Exactly. So true.
Yeah. If the value exchange is correct, then you will pay whatever, right? The price is not the right frame.
Exactly. And this is what I love about the customer insight reports we do. Sometimes you don't know how to present the value. You may know how to present it to a lot of people, but you may be missing it when it comes to a few others. And once you learn why they're not buying or what they wanted instead, it's really easy to pick up those sales. I mean, some people you just don't want to sell to, but
love it. That's true too.
Yeah.
Well, Adam, I know we're coming on time, man. I love getting time in general. I'm looking forward to both TNC and the last War Room.
I know.
Up in the near future.
Crazy.
And end of an era there. But where can people find out more about you? Where do you want to point people?
So our system, we call it the S.M.A.R.T Blueprint. You can go to thesmartblueprints.com and we'll analyze your business for you if you want, and we'll tell you if we even think we can help you make more money. That's completely free. We're more than willing to do that. You just fill in a form. But what we do have is on the form, on the page, there's multiple steps. And step one is literally step by step how we tidy up a business when we acquire it. And I had somebody message me back and say, you should just print this as a book. It's massive. It's huge. It's everything from testing offers to sales scripts to time management. It's all there and it's all free. So I would highly recommend you go there, look at it, even if it's just to borrow our SOPs and give them to your staff.
That's awesome, man.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you, dude. Looking forward to the next time for sure. And we're going to follow up on the blue blockers and try to tack this onto the episode. Maybe I'll pin you down during TNC and try to get some commentary on it.
Love it, dude. That sounds great. Perfect. Good to see you, man. Thanks, buddy.
If you learned one thing on this episode, share it with another entrepreneur. They need to hear it. Also subscribe so that new episodes just show up on your phone. It's a lot easier that way. And if you want the really good stuff, check out our free BAM! Tactics and Strategies course. It's where we curate the best tips, tricks, and tools that our guests know, whether they've shared them on the podcast or not. Just go to beyondamill.com. You'll also find previous episodes and show notes at beyondamill.com.